All right, let's see if I still know how to do this. Hi, my nephew Leonard is here today. You're finally going to meet Leonard, the Chief Financial Officer of Shop David Feldman, my nephew Leonard. Let's see if I remember how this works. It's the mop-up for August 13th, 2024. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. It means a lot. And I'm glad to be back. It took more than 4 years, but I finally contracted COVID a little over 2 weeks ago. I am fully vaccinated, which is why it took so long to catch the damn thing. And because I'm fully vaccinated, the symptoms were generally mild, but it was unlike anything I've experienced before, and that includes a Meatloaf concert back in 1999 without the benefit of earplugs. Because I have health insurance, early on, when the COVID hit me, I was able to get Paxlovid, one of the therapeutics, and it worked remarkably well, but I was warned of a boomerang effect, that when you take Paxlovid, COVID often returns quickly, and that's exactly what happened, but with even milder symptoms. So it wasn't horrible. As they say, it was like having a really bad cold, not even the flu. It was a bad cold that left me incredibly tired. Actually, I don't know if it was the COVID that made me incredibly tired. I think, like most of us, I was just incredibly tired. This has been an exhausting century. For the past couple of days, I've been feeling okay. Not great, okay. And whenever I thought the COVID was over, I tested and showed up positive. And I can't be around people except Leonard if I'm testing positive, which means I couldn't do the show. And that's depressing. What have I got if I can't do this show? What can I do if I can't do this show? What is there for me? I mean, other than what? How many times a day can I update my enemies list? Turns out the answer is 56. I discovered that's the most I can do in one day. Well, yesterday, Sunday, I tested negative. I don't feel 100%. And then right before the show, Leonard tested me. I tested positive. So I will keep today's show relatively short since, except for Leonard being here, I'm flying completely solo. Between now and Election Day, I'm hoping to do more shows, but shorter ones. I don't know how to do shorter shows. Thank you to everyone who asked how I am. It means the world to me. Thankfully, the COVID hit at the right time. I was already burnt out and needed to just stop. And luckily, we're in the dead of summer when nothing especially important is going on, other than the entire world changing. Vice President Harris has exceeded all my expectations. And this guy, Tim Walz, well, where has this guy been all my life? I don't think I've ever seen a more brilliant choice for a running mate. He embodies everything that's right about America. As governor, he established free breakfast and lunch at all public and charter schools, free for everyone, rich or poor. Because when it comes to children, food should be free, no questions asked. Project 2025 calls his free food program an entitlement that must be eliminated. Let's have that debate, please. Republicans don't want free breakfast and lunch for our students, so please, let's debate this. Republicans are especially angry because the free breakfast and lunch includes the summer when school isn't in session. And as Paul Krugman wrote sarcastically over the New York Times, quote, "I guess being hungry isn't a problem when school is out." Let's have this debate. Now, this election is going to be short on issues. Instead, the next 83 days will be about values, which can often be turned into a vague notion shrouded in meaningless bromides. So let's have this debate. Free food for all our children and abortion. Abortion and free food for all our children. So I'm easing back into things. I want to apologize for mispronouncing Kamala. I want to apologize for mispronouncing Kamala Harris's first name. It was not intentional, but it was lazy. During my downtime, I've since come to learn that Donald Trump goes out of his way to mangle her first name as a sign of disrespect, the same way he calls it the Democrat Party instead of the Democratic Party. I honestly didn't know Trump was doing that to her name. I mispronounce words all the time. It's a problem. Kamala. I'm not entirely innocent here. I should have learned how to say it. Kamala. Moving forward, I will refer to the vice president simply as Harris, or soon President Harris. She's going to win. Kamala. I haven't felt this positive since Hillary back in 2016. No, she's going to win. She's going to win. Which is why Donald Trump is now also calling the vice president, quote unquote, a bitch. He's angry, which means he's scared. There are now several reports that Trump is storming around Mar-a-Lago, screaming at the top of his lungs, that effing bitch. Trump's campaign, his schedule remains relatively light. Sunday night, he sat down with, what am I doing here? There we go. His campaign schedule remains relatively light. Sunday night, he sat down with Elon Musk for an interview on Twitter that was delayed roughly 45 minutes. It was a disaster. According to Musk, it was delayed because a cyber attack conducted by people trying to silence the candidate broke the internet. Yeah. Or maybe Elon Musk just sucks at what he does. Remember the Ron DeSantis interview on Twitter? Remember when Elon Musk hosted Ron DeSantis when he announced his candidacy on Twitter? That too was a technical disaster. Well, during the interview, Trump told Musk that climate change is a good thing because it will create more oceanfront property. That wasn't funny back in 1985 when every hack comedian made that joke. So, I want you to imagine 2025. I want you to imagine what 2025 can look like if we all get out there and start working for Harris. We can't take this for granted. And here's why you should work hard. There's a reward awaiting us. That reward is President Harris. Plus, Donald Trump's slow motion descent into hell. How much fun will it be to watch Trump forced to deal with a massive loss, a gigantic FU from the American people? Trump has become a bore. Trump in the White House will not be fun. Trump in the big house, that sounds like heaven. But here's the thing. Sending Trump to prison won't be as much fun after November as the chase. Enjoy the chase. Fans of boxing know about Muhammad Ali's blistering bout with Ernie Terrell in the Houston Astrodome on February 6, 1967. Terrell refused to call the champ by his name, Muhammad Ali. Terrell insisted on still calling him Cassius Clay. Getting people's name right is important. Kamala. So, Muhammad Ali wanted to hurt Terrell. Ali blinded Terrell in the third round. And by the fifth round, it looked like Ali was ready to knock Terrell out. But instead, Ali decided to go 15 rounds, bringing Terrell to the brink of a knockout and then pulling his punches like a cat torturing a mouse, keeping him alive. And instead of taking Terrell out of his misery, Ali worked him with body shots, screaming, "Say my name, say my name." The head was gone, so Ali pounded the midsection. He went 15 rounds to bruise the entire body. Why knock him out early? The fight is over. Find new places to punch. Prolong the punishment. Anyway, I've always said be patient when it comes to punishing Donald Trump. Treat his downfall as you would a 7-course meal. And just so I'm not mixing metaphors, as Mike Tyson often said, savor every bite. Now, when I watch Harris speak, the first thing that I think, I can't help myself, when I hear her speak, the first thing that comes to mind is, man, I hate Donald Trump. I hate the people who support him. I hate where they want to take my country. And when she wins in November, Donald Trump, if we work hard enough, will give us the show we deserve, the show we've all been waiting for. That show isn't Trump's return to the Oval Office. That's boring. That act is old. It's predictable. But watching Donald Trump self-immolate in slow motion, that's what we all deserve. Think about Rudy Giuliani. I try to savor every defeat, indignity, and humiliation this monster is forced to suffer. He deserves all of it and more. And I love the fact that Rudy isn't going to prison just yet. You lock Rudy up when the show gets boring. So, here is what 2025 is going to look like, because we're all going to work really hard to get Harris elected president. I want you to imagine Rudy Giuliani's abject disgrace that's going on right now. Multiply it times 1,000. That's who Trump is going to be after November. Rudy times 1,000. The most delicious and satisfying implosion in American history. But we have to make sure Harris is elected. And after she is, do not go wobbly on me. Don't start feeling sorry for Donald Trump. Don't say, maybe he suffered enough. Don't say she should pardon him for the good of the country. Salt Carthage. You need to enjoy Rudy's suffering. That video of him falling over drunk at the Republican convention, that should make you happy. He's a monster. And when the show is over, when we've squeezed every last schadenfreude out of Giuliani, then and only then should we lock him up for life. The same applies to Donald Trump. Keep him out of prison for as long as possible. When his free fall no longer interests us, then lock him up. Savor the meal. Keep him up for all 15 rounds and make sure every inch of his body hasn't been spared. They love fighting. They do. He loves UFC. UFC sportscaster and public intellectual Joe Rogan announced last Thursday that he was supporting RFK Jr. for president, calling him the only candidate who makes sense. Rogan said Kennedy was the only legitimate politician who doesn't gaslight voters. Let's see. 5 different positions on abortion, advising parents to ignore CDC guidelines on when their kids should get vaccinated, while at the same time insisting he's not anti-vax. Yeah, Joe Rogan's absolutely right. Bobby Kennedy makes perfect sense and never gaslights. Well, on Friday, Trump and his MAGA morons began attacking public intellectual Joe Rogan for endorsing Kennedy instead of endorsing Donald Trump. So, brave man that he is, Joe Rogan immediately walked back his endorsement, insisting, I didn't endorse RFK Jr. I was simply admiring him as a candidate, but that wasn't an endorsement. Yes, calling Kennedy the only candidate who makes sense wasn't an endorsement. Okay. But Rogan hates people who gaslight. No gaslighting there, right, Joe Rogan? Rogan then tried sucking up to Trump by saying, quote, I think Trump raising his fist and saying fight after getting shot is one of the most American effing things of all time. This is who these people are. Fight. Fight for what? Oh, just fight. Fight for the sake of fighting. It's all about the fight. Hurt anybody. Hurt anybody. During last night's Twitter disaster, when Trump and Musk were talking, both said how much they admired each other's willingness to fight. They don't understand that punching down is not fighting. As Hillary said of these people, a basket of deplorables. A basket of deplorables. There's new polling showing Harris's road to 270 has turned into a 6-lane highway, with Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania back, while Wisconsin and Michigan are turning dark blue, and Nevada isn't going red. As I said before contracting COVID, in order to win this thing, Harris's numbers need to soar in August before the polls settle after Labor Day and revert to a dead heat. But her numbers may never settle. There is a momentum here, and we may be looking at an Obama-sized landslide, the kind we saw in 2008. As you know, I have no idea. And a lot can happen between now and Election Day. God forbid a terrorist attack on American soil. That would make Harris weak. You know, after 9/11, Democrats rallied around Bush. Don't expect that from Republicans if anything remotely like 9/11 happens on Biden's watch. A lot can happen. The economy could collapse in October the way it did right before the 2008 election, which helped Obama and hurt McCain. October is always a dangerous time for the stock market. A lot can go wrong. But if history doesn't strike, Trump is doomed. Short of a major crisis that can be pinned on the Biden administration, Harris is looking to recreate Obama's 2008 historic landslide win over McCain. And don't forget, McCain, just like Trump, completely whiffed on his running mate. Sarah Palin was stupid, incredibly stupid. But J.D. Vance is vile, disgusting, dangerous, and incredibly stupid. He's turning out to be the most unpopular pick for a running mate since Palin. Some polls show him even more unpopular than Palin. He's got a net favorability rating of -11. America hates him, and the feeling's mutual. He hates America. Vance has a storied history of denigrating Americans who don't have children. He has said abortion should be illegal nationwide, including in the case of rape and incest. And he wrote the introduction for Project 2025, which is essentially an authoritarian blueprint for Donald Trump to turn the clock back to 1933 Berlin. So, Vance is as reckless a pick as Palin. And Vance is hurting Trump almost as much as Trump is hurting Trump. Look at Obama's win over McCain in 2008. Can I go large here? I don't know how to do this show. It's been a while. Here we go. This is Obama's win in 2008. You need 270 to win. Obama gets 365 to McCain's 173. Obama wins Ohio and Florida. He picks up Indiana and North Carolina. This is a landslide. He couldn't hold on to Indiana and North Carolina in 2012, but he did keep Ohio and Florida in 2012. It's important to remember that Ohio and Florida only became lost causes for Democrats after Donald Trump became a candidate. Florida became a lost cause when Ron DeSantis disenfranchised as many black voters as he possibly could. Now, look at the map. Obama lost Arizona and he lost Georgia. So did Hillary. But Biden picked up both in 2020. Biden found a slight opening through the Sun Belt in 2020. However, after the debate, it began closing on him. But Harris has reopened it. Arizona and Georgia are back in play. Look, I haven't done this show for more than 2 weeks. This is a completely different map from the last time we talked. Vladimir Lenin famously said, there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. We may have reached that inflection point. Maybe with Harris, definitely with climate destruction this month. Definitely, while I'm horse racing the election, there are some reports that we may have reached the tipping point with climate destruction this month. But today, I horse race. I'm hoping to do shorter shows, but more shows, and I'm going to tackle climate change. This is my first show back, and I wanted to talk about what I'm most excited about, and it is this election. And I want you to meet my nephew, Leonard. If you've been a long-time listener, I spent most of the year with my catastrophizing map. I kept showing you this one map. It was my worst case scenario, showing that Biden is still going to be able to win. All Biden had to do was win Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. You've all heard me warble the tired song of the Great Blue Wall. But this is a different map. This is my map of untold possibilities. Let me show you what a blowout wave election could look like. I'm very excited about this. I haven't been feeling 100%, but this makes me very happy. Okay, let me show you what a blowout wave election could look like. This is the absolute best case scenario for Election Day. It's also realistic, okay? This is the most we can hope for. This is what we could be looking at if Harris's trajectory continues into September. If her momentum stays on track, if Trump continues to be Trump, if he keeps J.D. Vance on the ticket and history remains silent and doesn't throw a terrorist attack or an economic calamity into our face, this could be a map we will be looking at during the second week of September. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here because I have no problem making a fool of myself. I'm going to say if Harris's lead in the blue wall remains outside the margin of error right after Labor Day, then this is the map she's playing for. Not necessarily going to win, but then this becomes the board game. Again, if she secures the blue wall after Labor Day, she could be playing for 372 electoral votes, with Trump ending up with 166. Everything needs to go right for Harris. Trump needs to continue to self-immolate. Again, I am showing you my best case scenario map, and I think it will help all of us pay attention to what states count. Again, this is why polling is so important. When pathways to 270 open up for Harris, Trump goes on defense, and he's forced to shore up states he never expected to lose. States where he has zero ground game because up until this week, he figured, why bother? In a wave election, this is what I think the map is capable of giving up. Best case scenario. She not only, in a best case scenario, Harris not only wins North Carolina, I know some of you are going to get angry when I say this, she also wins Florida and Ohio. Let's call North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio the what the hell just happened trifecta. If we wake up the day after Election Day and Harris has won North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida, it's a new world. Seriously. The Republican Party, as we know it, ceases to exist. Again, it ceases to exist again. I mean, the Republican Party, as we know it, has already ceased to exist. But with Trump finally going away, and it will finally then be time for serious truth and reconciliation inside the GOP, it will cease to exist once again as we know it. I wouldn't bet on the what the hell just happened trifecta, but I've been away for more than 2 weeks, and there are a lot of things I'm looking at right now I never would have bet on. A lot of things are never going to happen until they do, like Donald Trump becoming president and Joe Biden stepping aside. So I'm showing you this map because I want you to pay attention to where Trump and Vance start holding their rallies after the Democratic convention. Trump has money now, but he has zero ground game. And he can't get out the vote. Money doesn't mean knocking on doors. Trump supporters can't knock on doors. They have swollen feet and hypertension. They literally, and I mean this, I'm not trying to be cruel, they cannot walk the streets and knock on doors. Pay attention to where Trump holds his rallies. Now, his last rally was in Montana over the weekend. What is he doing in Montana? I'll tell you what he's doing. He's losing this election. Why is he in Montana? He's chasing crowds. He's playing Montana for the same reason Larry, the cable guy, plays Montana, because that's the only place where he can fill an arena. That's not how you win elections. You go where you're needed. But his ego cannot handle a half-empty auditorium. He's cratering in the polls. The blue wall for Harris is congealing. It's coming together. He needs to be in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, and North Carolina. Right now, his ego won't allow Harris to draw a bigger crowd. He's already accusing her of using AI to make her crowds look bigger than they actually are. Somebody is going to have to send him where he's needed. And where he goes tells us everything. If we see him stepping foot in Ohio, this is a massive wave election. If he thinks Ohio is in play, assuming he can handle a half-empty room in Ohio, if we see him in Ohio, this election is, a once-in-a-generation landslide. Now, he's already in panic mode. The fact that he wants 3 debates, pure weakness. And the debates won't move the needle for him. They didn't move the needle. I've been over this. What was it, June 27th, June 28th? The polling after the debate, Biden won over independents after that debate. The debates are not going to move the needles. Early voting in Pennsylvania starts on September 16th. This election, what is it? It's August 13th. Early voting in Pennsylvania starts a little more than a month from now. We're 60 days away from early voting starting in most states. So, the polls that come in after Labor Day, I believe, will tell us everything. This election could be over before the ABC debate on September 10th if Trump shows up. So, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Indiana, listen to me, all right? Hang on. Indiana is a lost cause. But listen, hear me out. Obama won it in 2008. I don't think Harris can win Indiana. But that is where Mike Pence and his idiot brother, who is a congressman, are from. And neither one of them are voting for Trump. Pence last week announced, once again, I'm not voting for Harris, but I'm also not voting for Donald Trump. Okay. The Pences are Indiana. Biden lost Indiana by roughly 500,000 votes, 16 percentage points. That's a landslide, but Mike Pence was on the ticket. Biden won it in 2008 with Obama, lost it in 2012 by 300,000 votes. 300,000 votes is a lot, but what if hundreds of thousands of Republicans in Indiana stay home? Or, like Mike Pence, just don't vote for president? What if we see record turnout for women and blacks in Indiana? If you look at my map, I'm still not giving Indiana to Harris. I think it's just a stretch. There's no significant polling in Indiana for a Harris-Trump matchup. They're not polling it because it's considered a lost cause. But we do have some light polling right now on House Republican Jim Banks's race for Senate. He's up 9 points, which isn't a lot. Jim Banks has a ceiling. Jim Banks is not so wildly popular in Indiana that he's going to deliver reverse coattails for Donald Trump. You're not going to see the phenomenon that you'll see with like Sherrod Brown in Ohio, where people turn out for him and go, what the hell, I'll vote for Harris as well. Nobody's going to come out for Jim Banks and say, and I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. What I'm merely suggesting on cold medicine, on antihistamines, what I'm suggesting is we could be looking at record low Republican voter turnout in Indiana. Jim Banks isn't going to drag Trump over the finish line. And I know Harris doesn't stand a chance in Indiana. But what I want us to do is to pay attention to Indiana, because polling there in late September and early October will serve as a bellwether. If we start seeing the race tightening in Indiana, she doesn't have to win Indiana, but if it starts, if it's in play, that's phenomenal. Again, I'm not, in my wildest of dreams map, I'm not giving her Indiana. In my wildest dream, my blue wave historical once-in-a-generation landslide, I'm going to give Iowa to Harris, not Indiana. I'll explain why I'm giving Iowa to Harris in a second. And with that, okay, best case, 372 electors for Harris and 166 for Trump. And there's no more meat on this bone. That's all you can squeeze out. Texas, they're just too stupid down there. I had hope earlier in the year for Texas, but this is the best she can do, which is phenomenal. This is a life-altering election. Now, again, the only way this happens is if the blue wall, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, continue to look strong for Harris after Labor Day. The less time and money she has to spend nurturing the blue wall, the more time she has in states like Indiana and Iowa. Why Iowa? Another long shot. But she's got Obama and Michelle, who are beloved in Iowa. Trump won the Iowa caucus, but voter turnout was dismal. Weather was bad, but voter turnout was dismal. And he's alienated the evangelicals, going soft on abortion. Republicans can't win Iowa if evangelicals stay home. That's why I'm giving Iowa to Harris in my blowout election. If I were running the Harris campaign, I would buy Michelle and her husband a home in Iowa, or rent a home for them in Iowa for all of October. Just have them live in Iowa for October. Let's look at North Carolina. By the way, if you want to, I like accountability. If you want to do a screenshot in 80 some odd days, you can hold me accountable. This is the best case scenario. 372 for Harris, 166 for Donald Trump. Maybe, you know what? I'm giving rural Maine to Trump. Obama took all of Maine, I think, in 2008. That's the best case scenario. I'm going to give rural Maine to Trump. North Carolina. Again, Obama won it in 2008, lost it narrowly in 2012. By the way, he was going to move to North Carolina with Michelle, thinking he could make a North Carolina a permanent blue state after he left the Oval Office. He decided not to. There's a Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. That's an A-plus poll. It's from 3 weeks ago. It's the latest polling on North Carolina. It shows Trump leading. This is really important. North Carolina is a really important state to watch for many reasons. I'm going to show you why. There's a A-plus Bloomberg Morning Consult poll from 3 weeks ago showing Trump leading Harris by just 1 point. This is phenomenal. I think if the election were held today, she'd win North Carolina. I always said Biden had a chance in North Carolina, But then the debate happened, and it began to slip away from him. Harris is now picking up on Biden's pre-debate momentum, and things in motion stay in motion unless history happens. Remember, we have a really important governor's race in North Carolina where the Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein is leading the batshit crazy Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson in all the major polls. This is a fun state to watch because Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, Republican, is batshit crazy. So he's going to lose to Josh Stein, and people are going to turn out to vote against Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. And this is really something. This is amazing. Democrat Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, was on Harris's short list for vice president. He's the current governor of North Carolina. He's not running for re-election. I don't know if he's term limited out or not. I think he might be, but he's not running for re-election. Democrats in North Carolina are elected statewide. Roy Cooper. Yesterday, Governor Roy Cooper announced plans to forgive billions of dollars in medical debt for the state of North Carolina. This is huge. Harris and Biden are right now talking about making it illegal for medical debt to be factored into your credit score, like here in New York. But the Democratic governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, with the help of Medicaid, is forgiving medical debt in that state going back 10 years. This is what he said on Monday. This is how you win elections. This is what Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina said. And this is why, one of the reasons, I think Harris is going to win North Carolina, and this is one of the reasons. This is what the Democratic governor of North Carolina said, forgiving medical debt. Quote, large medical debt is a constant weight on many people. Judgments can ruin their credit score and keep them from getting loans, credit cards, and even a job. It's also one of the main causes that drive people into bankruptcy. It's pretty much the only, unless you're a small business owner, the reason Americans go into bankruptcy is because of medical debt. I think half the people in this country who are given a diagnosis of cancer within 2 years declare bankruptcy. America. Well, this is how you win elections. It's not single payer, which I don't want to get into that. Trying to help win the election. We'll talk about single payer after Election Day. But this is how Democrats win in North Carolina. This is how Democrats win, forgiving medical debt. This is what a wave election looks like. If Josh Stein, the Attorney General, can keep the lead over the batshit crazy Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson, and Roy Cooper hits the campaign trails, in North Carolina, celebrating the Jubilee, forgiving medical debt, they will pull Harris over the top. I have no doubt. No doubt. Until Biden stepped aside, all the polls said he was the only Democrat who had a shot at beating Trump. Harris polled worse. You go back and listen to my shows. I went over all the polls. Harris was not polling this way. The second she emerged as the presumptive nominee, the numbers shifted slowly at first and then rapidly, unearthing the brutal realization that way too many Americans, including me, suffered from a failure of imagination. We were told if Biden stepped aside, there would be chaos. We were told that by Clyburn, that he was promising mini primaries and an open convention. That smelled like self-destructive disarray. But none of that materialized. I got that completely wrong. I underestimated how remarkably disciplined the Democratic Party has become. And why is that? Because Trump and the Republicans are incredibly dangerous. So this election isn't about climate change. We're having the hottest temperatures on record. And it is truly the only thing that matters. Instead, this election is mostly about defeating Donald Trump because the climate will change incredibly faster if he's elected. Forgive me, I want to go back to the map. I've been sick, and it hasn't been fun talking about the race for the past, since the debate. It hasn't been fun. And then I got sick. So I want to look at this map because it makes me happy. I want to be happy. We are seeing numbers that are phenomenal when it comes to the blue wall. Now, you know the drill. All she needs is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Okay. Again, the reason polls are important is because they determine Trump's allocation of resources. If he has to pour energy into the blue wall, that leaves him open in Florida and Ohio, which are looking less and less like long shots. If the blue wall congeals by Labor Day and looks solid for Harris, then the scope of her electoral map begins to expand spectacularly. This is all about allocation of resources. The less time and money she has to spend in Pennsylvania, the more time she has to spend in North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, maybe Iowa, possibly Indiana. If we can see a huge post-convention bump, and come Labor Day, if this is not a dead heat, which is what we should always expect on Labor Day during a presidential election cycle, by Labor Day, the polls revert to a dead heat, normally. If it's not a dead heat on Labor Day, we're looking at a blowout election. A brand new electoral map, a brand new day, a brand new country, dare I say. And I know I have a lot of listeners who didn't vote for Biden, and they're not going to vote for Harris. So, this isn't going to be Obama's hope and change. Obama, a little problematic. I love the guy, but the bankers didn't go to jail. He's a corporatist. This is not going to be Obama's hope and change, where we project onto Harris all our hopes and dreams, and she keeps things nebulous and then services the corporations. Well, look, Obama did some amazing Obamacare, not single payer. Okay, this will not be Obama's hope and change because the progressive wing of the Democratic Party didn't exist back in 2008. The Clintons destroyed it. There's a progressive wing now. It's not big enough, but we're not going back. We lost Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. We're not going back. Harris wins whether she likes it or not, she's going to be forced to deliver real progressive change. So that's why you should vote for Harris. I can't believe what I'm seeing in Pennsylvania. I've been away. I've been sick. And, when I last time I did the show, Pennsylvania was the problem child. I always felt of the big three in the blue wall, Pennsylvania was going to be the toughest for Biden. It was stubborn. Pennsylvania is a hard state. New Siena New York Times poll, A+ poll, now shows, as of yesterday, I had to read this 3 times, Harris up by 4% in Pennsylvania, outside the margin of error. That's a blowout. And it's before her post-convention bounce. If she can get a little higher in Pennsylvania right after the convention, and then by Labor Day settle back to this 4-point lead that she has in Pennsylvania, I promise you, it's going to get ugly for Donald Trump. I promise you. If on Labor Day she's still, if the Real Clear averages, this is one poll, if we're seeing Real Clear averages where she's got a 4% lead in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, this is your true bellwether state for this election cycle. If Harris stays ahead in Pennsylvania after Labor Day, we're looking at a massive wave election. Pennsylvania is a pretty good representation of America. Pay attention. As we move forward, I will be paying attention to how she's polling in the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Allentown, Scranton, and Bethlehem, and Harrisburg. That's where Pennsylvania will be won, in the suburbs. And it will be won by women and black women, particularly, showing up and saving America. That is the way it's going to be. That's the way it's going to be. This election will be decided in 3 states, in the suburbs, the blue wall, 3 states, by women in the suburbs and black women. That's what we're looking at. Pay attention to how many trips Trump and Vance are forced to make to Pennsylvania. If they have to take the fight to Pennsylvania, they have fewer resources to fight her in North Carolina, especially Florida. I think Florida, hope springs eternal, but Georgia. I'm going to finish up here. I wanted to keep this show short. Even before Biden's debate debacle, I was giving up on Georgia. Then, when Harris first became the presumptive nominee, the polling averages showed Trump's lead slipping a little. He held an advantage that was a little under 2 points. That was an improvement. She was doing better than Trump was against Trump. That was right about the time that I got sick. Now we're looking at a statistical dead heat. The momentum is moving her way in Georgia, especially as Trump continues to self-sabotage. I mean, it's really incredible. He's attacking the Republican governor, Brian Kemp, calling him Little Brian and referring to Kemp's wife as disloyal. I mean, attacking the governor's wife. He won't stop accusing Kemp of wanting him to lose, of conspiring. This is a Republican governor of Georgia. Trump is accusing the Republican governor of Georgia of conspiring for him to lose. That's not, I don't think that's how you win elections. Last time on the blue wall, and then I'm not going to horse race until after the convention. I'm going to talk about issues and there are other things going on in the world. The latest New York Times Siena poll shows Harris beating Trump in Michigan by 5 points. And in Wisconsin, the same poll shows her winning by 4. And remember, I just told you she's beating Trump by 4 in Pennsylvania. Now, those aren't the real clear averages. This is an A-plus poll. So we need to see the averages looking this way on Labor Day. I'm cherry picking A-plus polls, but it's phenomenal. And I cannot stress this enough. These 3 states, if the blue wall looks the way it's looking in some of these polls, after Labor Day, if it's not a dead heat on Labor Day, then the only thing we have to worry about is how big a landslide this is going to be. And of course, we have to worry about the Senate. We're already, I think we're looking at Hakeem Jeffries becoming the next Speaker of the House. The Senate is still tricky. If my wildest dreams come true, Harris destroys Trump, takes back the House, and I think the House, that's a foregone conclusion. The Senate, the Democrats will keep the Senate, but they're never ending up with a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, at least this cycle. However, there's a lot that can be accomplished with just a majority in the Senate. Joe Biden showed us how. I'll talk more about the race for the Senate tomorrow. The bottom line is this, and I'm going to wrap it up and introduce you to Leonard, my nephew, who made this. He's the chief financial officer. He's my sister's son. He made the David Ferdman Show coffee cups. He got 2 out of the 3 words correctly, so he gets a biscuit. It's David Feldman, and now I have 500 David Ferdman Show coffee mugs, hoodies, and sweatshirts that I have to unload. But I love my Leonard. You're going to meet him in a second. The bottom line is this. Harris was never my favorite, but neither was Biden. And I ended up fighting to the bitter end for both of them. Why? You get to a certain age where you don't become cynical. You realize, however, that all politicians, except for Bernie, because he lives in Vermont, all politicians, for the most part, are half-empty vessels. Half of who they are is what they owe their donors. But the other half is what we force them to do. It's up to us to make them do it. Joe Biden is the most consequential president of the 21st century, and I have to go back to Roosevelt, maybe LBJ. Nobody has had the legislative achievements or the success that Joe Biden has had in my lifetime. Unfortunately, he couldn't articulate it. Why is Joe Biden, who was a half-empty vessel, running in 2020? Half of him was beholden to his donors in 2020, maybe even more. Okay? why did he become such a great president? Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, the Squad, Public Citizen, the progressives made him do it. They made him do it. By the way, AIPAC defeated Cori Bush last week in Missouri. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. If you're a longtime listener, you know that hurts. This is one of the worst things to happen in American politics. And I will return to this. We lost 2 members of the Squad to AIPAC this year. Much, much more on that later in the week. If you have money, you should still donate to Cori Bush. And if you have money, you should first donate to the Squad. And then if you have anything left over, donate to the other candidates. But I strongly urge American citizens, or if you have a green card, to donate first to the Squad. Back to Harris. So, this election is about abortion and defeating Trump. I wish it were also about gun control, although she is bringing up gun control, which surprises me. It is about income inequality. I wish it were about a lot of things, universal health care and climate change. But with 80 some odd days, abortion and Trump is plenty. That's enough for an election. This election is also going to be the first post-Me Too election. Let me say this again. This is our first post-Me Too election. Me Too began in 2017, basically. 2020 doesn't count because Me Too was still new, and so was COVID. I mean, there were a lot of... but enough time has now passed for this country to have metabolized the Me Too movement. So yes, this election is about abortion, but don't underestimate the role that the Me Too movement is going to play in this election. This election is not just about reproductive freedom, which is incredibly important. Reproductive freedom means women's health. Women go to Planned Parenthood primarily to get their body examined. So this election will be about reproductive freedom and holding rapists accountable. This election belongs to our daughters, our mothers, our girlfriends, and most importantly, our mistresses. Now, I'm a Bernie bro, guilty as charged. And there's nothing you're going to tell me. I was talking to one of my daughters today. Bernie, 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 and Ralph Nader, and Howie Klein. Because of how I was born, I'm a class reductionist. I filter everything through the prism of income inequality, the rights of workers, outlawing billionaires, and fiscal spending, along with refiguring the tax code so the flow of money in this country flows from the top down, not to the top up. That's who I am. And I'm, okay? And I'm not going to change. Luckily, I have daughters who still talk to me. I'm sorry, talk at me. One of the reasons I do this show is I like to, this is the only place where I can be heard. I am talked at by my daughters. It's not always easy to be talked at. But I have grudgingly learned some things, thank God. What I've learned is the Me Too movement is just beginning. As long as there are men like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, this isn't even the end of the beginning of the Me Too movement. So I have some advice for some of my male friends. Adapt or die. I still see, I mean, I'm no saint, but adapt or die. As the woman says, we're not going back. Let me say a few words about identity politics. And by the way, I'm not a saint. I'm not trying to, anyway. But let me say a few words about identity politics. Whether you like it or not, and I'm going to be leaving a lot of groups out. I'm sorry. But whether you like it or not, women, migrants, Hispanics, Latinos, the entire LGBT community, Arabs, Jews, Muslims, Asians, and anyone who isn't a white, heterosexual Christian male is under assault in this country. I left out some groups. But if you're not a white, heterosexual Christian male in America, you're under assault. Whether you like that or not, that is a fact. There are now travel advisories issued against Florida for blacks and members of the LGBTQ community. It is not safe for black people and members of the LGBTQ community in Florida. As the vice president says, we're not going back. DEI and affirmative action are net positives. Here's what I know to the core of my very being. Show me a voter who has a problem with identity politics, and I'll show you a voter who never feared for their life because of how they were born. Show me a voter who has a problem with identity politics, and I'll show you a voter who never feared for their life because of how they were born. I know I'm leaving some groups out, and I apologize, but being a woman, a migrant, Hispanic, being part of the LGBTQ community, being Arab, Jewish, Muslim, Asian, or living with a physical or psychological disability is emotionally taxing. Studies show what discrimination does to neurons and your DNA. We inherit generational trauma. There are new studies showing that trauma clings to the double helix, and people, anyway, for another show. Life is hard for everybody. Even for white, heterosexual Christian males. In fact, especially for white, heterosexual Christian males. Who wants to, well, that's not fair. It's hard for them, especially when Hillbilly Elegy serves as your roadmap out of despair. The odious J.D. Vance in Hillbilly Elegy recognize the suffering of white heterosexual Christian males. But J.D. Vance is stupid. That's why his solution for them is what causes all their problems. He recognized their problems, but his solution is the reason they're having these problems. This idiot, J.D. Vance, says the answer for the hillbillies is more self-reliance, more personal responsibility, and a variety of toxic hyper-individualism that produces people like J.D. Vance. People like J.D. Vance who figures, I made it, why can't everybody else? You know, at least Donald Trump, deep down inside, knows he's full of shit. He knows he's not a self-made man. I mean, he knows he's full of shit. J.D. Vance actually believes he's a self-made man. There is no such thing as a self-made man. Now look, we are all mistreated. But some people are way more mistreated than others. I was talking to my sister yesterday about this. Vice President Harris has spent her entire life forced to stop and think. Unlike some, Vice President Harris, from the time she was born, was always forced to ask, am I being mistreated right now because I screwed up? Did I do something wrong? Or am I being mistreated because I'm black? Or because I'm a woman? Or because I'm Indian? Or because I'm the smartest person in the room? And that's threatening. Having to pause, stop, and consider all that is exhausting. Some people fold, unfortunately. Some people come out of it stronger. Some people come out of it impervious. As my sister said to me last night, don't think for 1 second that our vice president is afraid of debating Donald Trump. Well, I don't think she's afraid of Donald Trump because he knows, she knows, he's completely full of shit. And unlike Joe Biden, God bless his soul, Harris still has the capacity, she's young enough, to reduce Trump to the frightened little boy he's always been. You got to get out and vote and work for Harris and the Democrats. They're like 80 days, 80 some odd days. I have a problem with prosecutors. The reason our prisons are disproportionately black and Hispanic is because of prosecutorial discretion. Yes, cops they harass people of color and make the arrests, but it is the prosecutors who want to put the numbers on the board, and they always will go after low-hanging fruit. Most of the people behind bars never had a trial. Most of the people behind bars never had a trial. And if you're poor, a poor person never gets a trial. They plea out. They plea out. Even if they know they're innocent, they plea out. I blame the judges and I blame the prosecutors more than I blame the cops. We lock up way too many people, especially people of color. and I blame prosecutors. So that is my problem with the person I'm going to work my ass off to get elected president. Why? Because that's not who she is. That's just a part of who she is. It's important to remember all politicians are half-empty vessels. Half of that vessel is what the politician has to do for the donors, and the other half is what we and history make them do. Roosevelt is our greatest president because history and Philip Randolph, they made him do it. He just didn't become the greatest president. Biden became the greatest, one of our greatest presidents because we made him do it. I know I still have a lot of dissatisfied listeners who are not going to vote for Harris. So if we've learned anything from Joe Biden, God bless his soul, if we learned anything from Joe Biden, it is past results don't guarantee future performance. Past results don't guarantee future performance. There were a lot of reasons not to like Joe Biden. During the debate in 2019, Harris gave us a few. You know, he cozied up to segregationists, but past results don't guarantee future performance. If you go back and listen to my shows in 2019, I hated Joe. I said it. I said I hated Joe Biden. And if you listen to my shows from a month ago, you now know that I like him very, very much. He's earned my eternal like. Cast your ballot for Harris. If you have a problem with her, remember, past results don't guarantee future performance. She will do what we make her do, but we have to make her do it. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. I was one of them. I was one of the weak in the past 2 weeks. I'm feeling better. Join the Democratic Party. Get to work in the Democrat. Don't complain about the Democratic Party. Get to work for the Democratic Party. If you would like a transcript, why do I have a picture of this beautiful man here? God, I love him. What a goofball. What a goofball. He's so great. He is so great. He's as great as J.D. Vance is a piece of dung. If you would like a transcript of today's episode, go to shopdavidfeldman.com. They're free. They're free because of the listeners who go to shopdavidfeldman.com and buy garbage like this, the Donald Trump fart filtration mask. Leonard, you're going to meet Leonard in a second, my nephew. So my sister, you know the story about my sister. She has a son named Leonard, and Leonard wanted to be a Hollywood stuntman, but he has acrophobia. He has a fear of heights. So he didn't know when he moved to Hollywood to become a stuntman, he didn't know that the stuntman's union persecutes acrophobics. You have to be able to jump from buildings. Leonard, he always wanted to be anyway. So my sister said, "Can you help out here?" So I made him chief financial officer of shopdavidfeldman.com. And before he dropped out of college, he studied marketing, and he's got great ideas. And one of the things he did is he took my credit card and said, he said to me, why don't you turn your listeners into human billboards, have them pay for the privilege of advertising your show? And I thought, what a great idea, Leonard. And he said, you sell T-shirts with the David Feldman Show on it, and coffee mugs and hoodies, and because your listeners are stupid, they'll buy this crap, and then they become walking billboards for your show. I mean, he said you'd be amazed at how stupid your listeners are. So I gave him my credit card, and as most of you know, he printed up 500 coffee mugs that say David Ferdman Show. And if you want to help a brother out, I think he did a great job. He got David right, and he got show right. Ferdman is mostly right. I mean, it's just the R. Ferdman, Feldman, it's close. Anyway, I'd like you to meet my nephew, Leonard. I wasn't feeling well. He came in. He's risking COVID. Here's my nephew, Leonard, with a little message for all of us. Let's go to Leonard. Hi, Leonard.
Are we rolling?
Yes.
You sure this is rolling? Hello, I'm Leonard Riefenstahl. Some of you might know me as Chief Financial Officer of ShopDavidFeldman.com, but most of you know me as David Feldman's nephew. When my mother told me Uncle David's store was struggling, I decided to put my dream of becoming a famous Hollywood stuntman on hold so I could jet back to New Jersey and save Uncle David's failing company. Because what good is fulfilling one's dreams of becoming a world-famous Hollywood stuntman without family? I'm coming to you from the Shop David Feldman Show Nerve Center, my old bedroom here in Rumson, New Jersey, where each new design is carefully crafted and then meticulously checked, and then triple-checked to assure quality control. When and only when a product passes the Leonard Riefenstahl smell test, then and only then is it shipped to David's loyal customers, all three of them. That would be Uncle Morris in Utica, New York, Heinz in Berlin, Germany, and Cousin Sophia in Portland, Oregon. Thank you all for being David's customers. Well, actually, Uncle Morris in Utica, New York returned the chef's apron, so technically it's just Cousin Sophia in Portland and Heinz in Berlin, who are David's customers. Thank you, and please buy more stuff. Obviously, you have the money, so go to ShopDavidFeldman.com and share some of it. Don't be cheap. Nobody likes somebody who's cheap. Buy a lot of stuff, 'cause you seem kinda cheap. Don't be that way. Be different, like not cheap. Anyway, I'm proud to announce my latest design. Uncle David is giving me free rein to tap into the youth market, whose finger I've got my pulse on, in order for me to come up with cutting-edge ideas that are fresh, exciting, daring, and cross-generational. Take a look at this. It's a coffee mug, and right on it is former President Donald Trump, who I think has been unfairly maligned, especially on this program. I'm not saying the guy doesn't make mistakes, and I'll be the first to admit Trump's kind of sloppy in the way he refers to people. But take it from me, when you're running a business, sometimes you can be rude unintentionally. There's a lot of pressure being a job creator. Like this afternoon, my mom, David's sister, was doing the thing with the leaf blower right outside my window, and I said, "Hey Mom, I'm still sleeping, use your head for Christ's sake." I didn't mean to hurt Mom's feelings. She began to cry, and I kind of felt bad, but this is what people who run a business have to do. The business comes first. We don't have time for people's feelings. So take a look at this gem, limited edition, only 500 of these. It's Donald Trump, who I may or may not be voting for. Unlike my Uncle David, I keep an open mind. Plus, I told him something like, I don't know what, 20 million people are going to vote in November. And why are you going to attack Trump? You attack Trump, you lose 10 million potential customers. Why not appeal to all 20 million Americans? But he doesn't listen because old people are set in their ways. So this is my latest design, limited edition. It's President Trump. Don't want to be disrespectful. It's President Trump dressed like a mobster, and next to him are the words, the God Farter. The God Farter. Let me explain why this is funny. The Godfather is considered one of the greatest movies of the 20th century. It stars Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone, who puts family first, just like me when I decided my career as a Hollywood stuntman should wait until I got my Uncle David's store up on its feet. So the name of the movie is The Godfather, but I changed it to The Godfarter because this is Donald Trump, and they say he farts a lot. I expect this to be a huge seller, which is why I went ahead and borrowed my Uncle David's credit card and told our printer to ship 500 of these limited edition Godfarter mugs to our warehouse in Rumson, New Jersey. You should buy this. Don't be cheap. Buy a couple of these. Otherwise, you're stupid and cheap. Only a low IQ idiot moron who's cheap wouldn't buy this. I have 500 of them, so let's start moving these mugs off the shelves. Don't make me look like an idiot just because you're an idiot. I get what you're doing. You're an idiot moron who's cheap, so you want company. You want me to look like an idiot moron just like you, but I'm not. You're the one who's cheap. I'm not cheap. You're a moron, not me. See, your plan to make me look just like you isn't gonna work. Buy this. Don't be a jerk. Well, it's too late. You're already a jerk. Be half a jerk. If you buy one, you're half a jerk. And if you buy two, you can end up being 1/4 of a jerk. Although I don't have my calculator with me to verify that, but I'm pretty certain if buying one makes you half a jerk, two will make you 1/4 of a jerk. You're really stupid not to go to Shop David Feldman Show right now and buy one of these Godfarter mugs. Don't be an a-hole. Seriously, like if you don't want to buy a Godfarter coffee mug, you should really consider listening to some other podcast. My Uncle David doesn't need stupid people like you listening to him. So if you don't buy this mug, you should unsubscribe from his channel. David Feldman doesn't need cheap morons like you dragging us down to your level. We don't want to live in the primordial ooze you people call a home. Okay, that's it for now. I'm Leonard Riefenstahl, Chief Financial Officer of ShopDavidFeldman.com, reminding you to keep it real. Now back to Uncle David in New York City, which I've always been meaning to visit, but I hear it's crowded.
Thank you, Leonard. That's my nephew, Leonard. Lives in New Jersey, only a couple of miles away from New York City, has never visited New York City. But he's a great kid. Smart kid. Thank you to Bob in the chat room for keeping this place. Let me see. We have some super chats today. Hang on. Oh, wow. Thank you to Ian down in Australia. Philip, Jen, Thomas. Thank you all for your super chats. If you enjoyed any of this show, please share it with your friends. Leonard could use some fan mail. Leonard will answer your fan mail. I think we're going to be hearing more from Leonard. What else do I have to tell you to do? Share this with your friends. Please subscribe to my newsletter and to this channel. You know hey, I was sick, and it's depressing to be sick. It's good to see everybody. It really is. It's a privilege to be able to do this. So, thank you. And I love you, Leonard. I love you. I think that covers everything. Bye.